Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Public Sector Organisation of the Year webinar this morning. This is the last in our series of webinars covering the National Diversity and Inclusion Awards 2024. So thank you for joining along the series, and thank you all for all of those joining this morning as well. My name is James Cawley. I'm the Business Development Executive with the Irish Centre for Diversity. To describe myself, I'm a proud, white, disabled man. My pronouns are he, him. I have brown hair and I'm wearing a baby blue shirt, and I'm sitting in my powered wheelchair with a backdrop behind me saying Irish Centre for Diversity. In February of this year, we hosted the National Diversity and Inclusion Awards to recognise and celebrate the amazing work being done to progress diversity and inclusion in Ireland. This webinar series has been devised to share insights and experience so that any learnings can be applied to your organisation or indeed to help with entering the next award cycle. Today's session focuses on the category of Public Sector Organisation of the Year. This award was proudly sponsored on the night by Publicjobs.ie. Soon, I'll pass you over to the award sponsor, and then we will learn from some of the finalists and finish with the award winner, wrapping up within the hour. Just to say, we are joined by Orla McCabe and Vanessa Keating, our ISL interpreters, so a big thank you to you both. This session is being recorded and will be available on the Irish Centre for Diversity website in the events section of our website. Also, it's important to say that everyone except the panel is on mute for this morning's session. Please do share your comments in the chat function. We would love to hear where you're joining from this morning. Also, a packed schedule means that we won't have time for Q&A, but please post questions in the chat section and we'll share the answers at a later date with the recording. Before we start, it is important to mention that Publicjobs.ie, like the other sponsors and the Irish Centre for Diversity, had no part in the judging process and couldn't enter themselves. Okay, let's go. I'm very pleased to introduce our host for today's session, Mark Whelan, EDI lead with Public Jobs, who will engage in conversation with all these fantastic panelists and the work that they're doing to advance D&I in Ireland. Mark, over to you.
Thanks very much, James, and thanks very much for inviting me along today. I'm Mark Whelan. I'm an ED&I partner with Public Jobs. I'm a white male with short brown hair, and I'm wearing a blue shirt, and I have a blurred background on my screen at the moment. So just some background on Public Jobs. We are the part of government that does the recruitment for the civil and public sector. And this includes for government departments, Garda Síochána, local councils, HSE, and over 150 other public sector organisations. This includes recruitment for large volume general grade campaigns, professional and technical roles, senior executive roles, state boards, and absolutely everything else in between. So very varied, lots of different things we work on. We don't do all of their recruitment, but we are, I can certainly say, we're kept busy at the moment. So there's plenty to keep us going. So quickly, just why did we sponsor this award? Well, diversity and inclusion is really at the heart of everything we do. It's very important to us. So agreeing to sponsor the award was it only involved a very quick conversation. Our clients and partners are in the public sector. So the Public Sector Organisation of the Year award made sense as the one to sponsor. And it was a great opportunity for us to demonstrate our commitment in supporting our clients. We're very aware that progress on ED&I related things is a collective effort. So anything we can do to support that and push that, we're happy to get on board with. In 2021, we created our first ED&I strategy, which was ED&I 23, and that had three key pillars: better data, better processes, and leading by example. And that's due to that centralized role we have, that we try and lead by example. And in 2024, we refreshed that strategy with ED&I 26, and that was really to build on some of the good work we'd already done and really keep pushing forward as much as we could. Just to highlight some of that good work that we have done, it includes a project to review the quality of our quality monitoring data with the ESRI, and that was to help us identify who was getting jobs through Public Jobs and who isn't. We also recently completed a project funded by the Public Service Innovation Fund to reimagine reasonable accommodations at assignment and onboarding. And that was a co-design process with the input of internal input, clients, candidates, experts in design, experts in specialists in various different areas. And it had the input of over 100 different people in that project to try and come up with a new process, which was great. And there's also our work on inclusive routes. So our inclusive routes campaigns, recruitment campaigns, which include the Willing, Able and Mentoring Program, WAM, which is a program for graduates with disability. It's a work placement and if people get into the placement, there's a route to permanency as part of that. Our work on the Oireachtas Work Learning Program, EOL, which you'll hear a little bit more about later, which is a supported work placement for candidates with an intellectual disability. And we also recently ran a traveller enrolment internship, which is a 12-month internship at clerical officer and executive officer level. So those sort of campaigns are something that are very important to us. Just to say, we were not part of the judging process. So we're delighted to hear from the panel, because we always want to learn more from what other organizations are doing well, and to try and use these stories and examples of good practice to improve our own policies and procedures and our service offerings. So I'm really excited to hear your stories. And I think that's probably, you've heard enough from me. So I think we'll just get into talking to get into the webinar and just hear your stories at this stage and hear from the finalists. So our first finalist today is the Houses of the Oireachtas Service, represented by Roisin Deary. Hi, Roisin.
Hi, Mark.
How are you?
Good.
Good. Do you want to give yourself a quick introduction?
Yep, perfect. Good morning, everybody. My name is Roisin Deary, and I lead out the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion team in the Houses of the Oireachtas. I'm white female. I have dark brown curly hair, tied up this morning, and I'm wearing a pale blue top. I'm sitting in my home today with a blurred background.
Thanks very much, Roisin. So the judges loved hearing about the multiple award-winning Oireachtas Work Learning Programme, known as the EOL Programme, which was set up as an applied learning and development initiative for young adults with intellectual disabilities. It provides meaningful part-time employment in the public sector. As the public sector is now tasked with having 6% disability inclusion by 2025, this project is strategically very important. So could you tell us more, Roisin, about EOL, in particular how you work with different departments and allowed them to come online as training centres if they weren't already active recruitment centres?
Yeah. Thanks, Mark. So yeah, probably to say from the outset, we actually started as a training program without really figuring out where it was going to go. And that was in 2018. And at the end of the first program, so what we do is we provide 3 work experience placements for 10 people with an intellectual disability each, what you call academic year, September to June. So this was happening in the Houses of the Oireachtas Service in 2018, 2019. So the positions, we provide placements for our clerical officer, service officer, and at the time catering assistant placements. So each of the 10 people got 3 work experience placements in the Houses of the Oireachtas only. And I suppose at the end of that first year, we realised we need employment out of this, because many of the sections within the Oireachtas were saying, we want to keep this person. You know, they're a really good fit in the team. You know, we've learned so much. It's brought so many benefits to the team. So we ran a confined competition that year with support from Public Appointment Service, and then the Public Appointment Service at the end of that competition also decided to come on board as an employer. So I suppose the programme knew then that this was a way forward for people. So in 2019, 2021, then we ran the next programme, and obviously, of course, COVID hit. But because the House of the Oireachtas had taken on 4 employees at that point, we were 4 training places short, if that makes sense. So we obviously had to go out to other departments and say, would you be interested in becoming a training site? So at that stage, we took on 2 new training sites, which were the Department of Agriculture, Food and Marine and the Department of Tourism, Culture, Arts, Gaeltacht Sport and Media. So 2019 to 2021 and 22 to 23 programs, we had 3 training placement sites. During this time, then different departments. We would have delivered presentations, invited people in to see how the program works, and we would have gotten another 5 employing departments on board at that stage. And I suppose coming into the last 18 months, what we've realized is the program's very much a partnership program. We know how it works in the houses of the Oireachtas. PAS know how it works on the ground. You know, any of the employing departments know how it works on the ground. But if you're new to it, you don't know how it works on the ground, and seeing it and actually going through it are 2 very different things. We can take people in and show them how it works, but you have to work it. You have to understand how the role fits into the team, how the person fits into the team, how the team fits with the person, the natural supports that come with it. So I suppose what we've realized over the last 2 to 3 years is everybody's coming at it from their own starting point. Some people are ready to jump into employment straight away. Some people want to dip their toe in the water and figure out how the supports work, because the unique selling point of the OWL program is the job coach support that Care and Walk, the 2 disability service providers that we work with, that they provide to people. So the people who become a training placement site see that as much as how a graduate site sees it. So it just makes it more real on the ground so people can understand it. I suppose as well, you find the fit, you know, the way we always talk about the fit in the team. If you become a training placement site, we've found that they've all come on board now as employers to somebody who had completed a work experience placement on their team, because the fit happened straight away and it was great and it worked for people. Becoming a training placement site instead of a graduate site. Now, we're always pushing and prefer the graduate piece, because obviously at the end of the program, we want permanent part-time employment for all the graduates. But sometimes people need to see how a job is carved out, and that's a role by Care and Walk, and particularly the job coaches. And what we say that is, the job coaches will go in, they'll look at the role the person is going to do. They might look at other roles in the section with the team and take chunks of things that will make up a role. I don't mean make up a role, but will combine into a role that then works for the person that's coming on board. So I suppose the important thing is we've always approached the OWL program as a partnership approach. So we don't push graduate positions, we don't push training positions. We want people to come on board with us when they're ready and at the stage they're ready at to engage. And I suppose just to conclude on that piece, it's important to know we've had 30 graduates through the OWL training program, and there's 17 employed in the civil service for a variety of reasons. Some didn't want to, continue to work in the civil service when they finished the training placement, and that's absolutely fine. Some went back to further and higher education. Some wanted to work in catering. Some wanted to work in the private sector. So it's very much tailored to partnership approach with all the departments we work with, but a very individualized approach for each trainee who comes on board and where they would like to work. So I think that, Mark, is how we've approached it.
Very good. Okay, great. Thanks very much, Roisin. The second finalist we'll hear from today is Shane Caffrey, representing the Department of Foreign Affairs. So judges congratulated the department's Gender Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Action Plan, which is the result of extensive staff engagement over a number of months, including a detailed survey, focus groups, and engagement on other critical issues. They've already completed and implemented 51 actions and 28 targets from the action plan. So Shane, sorry, if you want to quickly introduce yourself, hi, and then we'll just get into a question here.
That's great, Mark. Thanks very much. So my name is Shane Caffrey. I'm the Deputy Director of Strategic HR at the Department of Foreign Affairs. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm a white man with curly dark brown hair, and I'm wearing a black jumper and sitting in the office today.
Thank you very much, Shane. So could you tell us about this ambitious action plan?
I can, yes. Thanks very much, Mark. Our JEDI action plan, as we call it here in the department, standing for Gender Equality, Diversity and Inclusion. It's a strategic and living document that we have, and through this, that the department focused on which aligns with our values, wants to have a meaningful impact for our staff and for our line managers, and to help the department further, I guess, our systems, our policies, and our practices to embed the diversity and inclusion throughout the department. We're quite unique as a department and organization, I guess, because we're dispersed across Ireland and also across 99 missions overseas. And so we have a global team of over 3,000 officers, and we're trying to raise Ireland's voice and profile and defend our interests and values in new ways and strengthening our partnerships throughout. So we are quite diverse and complex within the Irish public service, considering we have Irish and international colleagues of many different nationalities, backgrounds, languages, and cultures. And while we always have, we speak about our foreign policies, we want to ensure that these are reflected internally within our department itself. So as such, this action plan that we created, it aims to place the department as a leader in this field across the public sector, with a focus on our staff experience of fairness and of belonging, by enhancing gender equality, and I guess to harness the inherent diversity of our department, and also to reflect the diversity of modern Ireland, and trying to push that forward. So most importantly, it aims and is trying to achieve this through clear and defined targets that are measured and monitored for success. And that was a very important thing for us when developing the action plan, that it was clear, targeted, and that we were building towards actual results. So it's nice to talk about the action plan, but then I suppose it's good to give an example of what we actually did within that. So some of our main kind of flagship that we achieved in the last year was mandatory and bespoke JEDI Essentials, is what we call it, training that was provided to all our staff across the globe. And the aim of this training was to help our DFA staff at HQ, posted abroad, and all our locally engaged staff as well in our missions to understand the basic concepts of diversity and inclusion, why they matter, and then of course how they apply within our department. So this was a massive project which we eventually were able to roll out, and we're continuously updating and monitoring, and is also a way to share and embed the policies that we've already put in place, and to make sure that these policies are being used and they're not just sitting on a shelf, and people are aware of the supports that are available, and also of the standards with which people should be acting. And so some other kind of examples that we did were enhanced guidance and signposting regarding prevention and resolution of bullying and inappropriate behavior, and communication around that. We had a guide to supporting transgender colleagues, which was created for managers to promote a kind of more welcoming and inclusive environment for our transgender colleagues. We launched our menopause policy. Actually, as has been mentioned today as well already, we also successfully used the WAM, the Willing Able Mentoring Program, and also the Oireachtas Work Learning the OWL program, which we've just heard from Roisin. So, that just shows the capacity for this public sector to work together, and as has been made very clear through this and from the award ceremony, there's lots for us to learn and collaborate from each other. So it's nice to see that we're all already overlapping on that issue. And then finally, another big push we tried to do was, again, in the communications world, was our inaugural JEDI Week, which some people were disappointed it wasn't Star Wars themed, but this was our opportunity to shine a light on the many initiatives that are happening within the department, because we have our multicultural groups, LGBT groups, gender working groups. We have a lot of groups within the organization, and we're trying to enhance and, I guess, shine a spotlight on all of the work that they're doing and support them from a departmental perspective. So now we're looking towards a JEDI month for later on in 2024. So it's growing. So yeah, I'll leave you with that. As a department, we're continuing to embrace EDI. We're looking to strengthen our leadership and our accountability on this, and we could to continue to challenge the status quo within the department, and consistently assessing our decision making, making sure that we're reaching our targets, setting higher and higher targets to achieve, and we're committed and determined. And I guess overall, we're excited to keep the dial moving in the right direction on this. And thank you to the Irish Centre for Diversity for their support with this too.
Thanks very much, Shane. Can I just ask a quick follow-up question? You mentioned the engagement piece and all the, you got your missions, and it seems like a lot of quite a spread to try and get feedback from. How did you find that process?
Quite challenging at the start. It really was. So it was to reach out to 99 missions, we had to really utilize, I guess, the top-down information flows. And we were quite lucky that we had a very strong buy-in from senior management. So when we have our Secretary General driving this, he made sure that his management board were fully behind it. And then it passed through the various management structures. And then in our department, we've kind of regional groups. So to ensure that, say, East Asia and all our colleagues over there were doing this training, it would have gone through their leaders. And actually what we did end up doing was we created a the Jedi Champions League table, which had all of the senior management and all of the colleagues that are answerable to them. We had it all laid out in a kind of an internal table here. So to put a bit of pressure on senior management, just so that people could ensure that they're at the top of the table and they weren't lagging behind. So a bit of healthy competition really helped with that too.
Thanks very much, Shane. That's great. Our third finalist is Irish Rail, represented today by Samuel Riggs, winner of the CIPD 2024 Diversity Champion Award. The judges were impressed with the journey Irish Rail has gone to make the organisation more inclusive, especially in the last 2 years. They attributed much of the success to the strength of the effort of the team, and especially enjoyed meeting you, Samuel, during the interview process. There are some great examples to choose from, but perhaps you could speak to Irish Rail's fantastic work in the area of gender equality, the transformation already achieved and the plans ahead. You might, introduce yourself first quickly, Samuel, apologies, and then into the question.
Of course. Well, thank you all very much for having me today. As mentioned, my name is Samuel Riggs. I'm the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Programme Manager here at Inroad Air and Irish Rail. My pronouns are he, him. And as a descriptor, I'm a white man with blue eyes and blonde hair parted to the right, with a black septum piercing and black ear studs, wearing a green knit jumper with a blurred background of an office. So we're obviously incredibly proud of our work on gender equality. As a heritage industry, we're traditionally incredibly male focused, and we currently sit at around about 12% of our workforce being women. This has increased about a percentage point per year since 2021. So we're moving in the right direction. It's important to us to diversify the number of women at the organization, as it is, of course, to diversify across all the underrepresented communities at the railway. But our public perception and our historical ability to hire have worked against us somewhat, but we've obviously achieved a lot in the space. So our Shine Women's Network has gone from strength to strength. They're increasing in members all the time, as well as our Inspire Women in Leadership program, which is a group of 30 women blended across management and frontline who receive workshops delivering key skills to promote progression, as well as annually they have the opportunity to present their on-the-ground solutions for improving gender equity at the railway to myself and a panel of senior leaders, including the CEO. I'm looking forward to hearing about that next month, actually. We're also undergoing a review of welfare facilities across the network so that people have access to the appropriate welfare facilities. And indeed, we're also looking at improving access to PPE for women across the network as well. We've hired a new end-user specialist to assist with this. Our health and wellbeing program actually focuses and is centered on a life stages approach. So we've also introduced a menopause policy. We're expanding supports for parents through our Working Parents initiatives, and our return to work partnerships with the likes of Back to Work Connect will also help us to support new and returning employees coming into the railway. And creating new pathways to employment at the railway is really important to us as well. We've expanded our roster when it comes to working with schools, and in particular through the PTech World of Work programs. And we're also looking, we've also done a number of in-house workshops as well, reaching out to all girls schools across the island of Ireland to encourage pathways to work. We've obviously made huge new commitments through our gender pay gap reports, including our goal to eliminate gender-based bullying and harassment by 2030. We want to ensure that all of our selection panels are gender balanced, and we're creating a gender action committee that will have representation from senior leadership. Of course, not to mention our big headline goal, which is to double the number of women at the organisation by 2030 and to have 25% of all new recruits and all senior leadership positions held by women by this milestone as well. And that's actually enshrined in our CEO's goals. All of this has been really taken on by the teams here. And we're really excited for the future, especially when it comes into the gender equality space. I suppose beyond that, we also have a wider vision. We want to become the leader in ED&I amongst all of Ireland's transport bodies, which is a lofty goal. We're a small team here in ED&I Irish Rail at the moment. It's just me, so it's quite a lean kind of organization. So it's a big ask, but it's one that I think that we can achieve as we grow and we flex out. I think, we spoke at length in the interview about our ED&I vision and ED&I strategy 2030, which is a person-led, compassion-centric strategy encompassing new goals and already established goals across our people strategy, our gender pay gap commitments, and indeed our sustainability strategy as well. And it involves talent, HR, recruitment, and all of our social leaders across ED&I champions and our employee networks. The strategy will include goals for leaders, people managers, and colleagues. And some of those include all managers will have to have an ED&I goal in their targets. We're going to reinforce our commitment through our supply chain and through procurement as well. And we want to gather data on our employee base through our new Oracle HCM system and use this to inform our campaigns. We also want to provide an ED&I touch point in all of our inductions and ensuring that ED&I is a valid and important reason to request and provide release from duty. That's very important for the inclusion of frontline staff and indeed for the inclusion and continued commitment we have to working with our trade unions, with the National Transport Authority and the Department of Transport as well. So far, we've achieved a lot. We have inclusive decision-making training for all managers and HR recruitment professionals. We've launched a new anti-bullying and harassment campaign, which is tied into our health and safety strategy as being key to psychosocial safety at work. We have a new partnership with the Irish Traveller Movement, and we're looking forward to welcoming a number of members of the travelling community through our apprentice programme shortly. And we have a much expanded Pride roster as well. Anyone who's gone through Tara Street recently might have seen the new mural that we've put up. And we also had our first solo representation in Pride, Dublin Pride last year, and we're supporting a number of regional Prides as well. And watch this space for expanding a lot of our support this June as well. We've introduced sign language training for a number of our customer service on board staff. 40 members of customer service on board are undergoing sign language training at the moment. And we've renewed disability training for this cohort as well as introducing additional ED&I training modules for all staff through our new e-learning platform. So it's been a huge year, but both in gender equality and indeed across the ED&I spectrum. And we're really committed to embedding ED&I across the whole organisation. And there's been great buy-in from the top down, from frontline to back end as well. It's been fantastic.
Thanks very much, Samuel. The judges mentioned there was lots to choose from. There certainly is from the initiatives you've given there. So thanks very much for that. Appreciate it. Next up, I'm pleased to welcome another award finalist, the SEAI, represented today by Jenny Marr. Could I get you to introduce yourself, Jenny?
Sure, Mark. Thank you. So my name is Jenny Marr. I'm the head of HR and organisational development at the SEAI. I am a white woman. I have brown hair and brown eyes. I'm in the office today, but I've put on the SEAI background. I'm wearing a black jacket with a green bird brooch, and delighted to be here today as part of the panel.
Thanks very much. The judges really enjoyed meeting members of SEAI ED&I team. They commented that the committee members hail from diverse backgrounds with wide-ranging perspectives, creating a balanced group of professionals focused on human rights and equality. An ED&I subcommittee was formed to specifically look at requirements relating to the public sector duty. Could you tell us a bit more about that, please?
Absolutely, thank you. So, part of being part of SEAI, our mission is really delivering Ireland's energy revolution, and that's for everybody within our society. So the public sector duty is something really that underpins that. So our public sector duty subcommittee has done a lot of work in this area. We're early on the journey, so it's really exploratory at this stage, but there's been a lot of work that they've undertaken as it's such a vast area. So They have organised training for the entire EDI committee, and they presented to the entire organisation then, the entire SEI organisation in January 2024 to really promote awareness of the work in this area and the importance of considering human rights and equity at all stages of our process, given the number of interactions we have across Ireland with the whole of society. So following that presentation, the public sector subcommittee, they were looking for more volunteers to support the undertaking of the vast work. And that committee has expanded now from 3 to 12 members. So it's great to see the level of commitment and energy and enthusiasm across the organisation. And that larger subcommittee was then developed and established using the egalitarian principles and a strong view on having a gender balance. So a part of that subcommittee is looking to engage with external experts to provide support to the committee and really conducting preliminary research into that area. So initially the focus is kind of twofold. So internally the focus is obviously then on addressing where gaps might be within the workforce, ensuring fair and equitable practices are adopted. So we really are focused on, as part of the people strategy as well, creating an exceptional employee experience. So we want to ensure we're welcoming, we're supportive, we're inclusive for all our members of our team. But very importantly, there is a strong external focus with that. So obviously supporting disadvantaged groups, marginalised groups, and those experiencing energy poverty, which I suppose is, very topical. But we really want to make sure that there's a just transition for all in society, and that's kind of front and centre as part of the SEI mission. So the piece of work with the public sector duty rollout engages employees from across all of our organisation, and we really want to make sure everybody's included and supportive of the rollout. And that comes as part of some of our core values, which are around being passionate, being experts, and being collaborative. So really, really working alongside each other and alongside experts in this area to roll this out really successfully. And I would also say that the public sector duty piece of work really is very much underpinned and part of a larger EDI strategy and part of a larger EDI committee. So the EDI strategy obviously has a number of different actions within it, similar to what the other panelists have outlined this morning. So making sure we have strong, robust policies and processes in place to really integrate diversity and inclusion and equality as a way of working. And those include stuff like hosting the events and hosting workshops. So, for example, having events around pride, neurodiversity, disability awareness, cultural inclusion have been key really to ensuring that there's something in there for everybody, and that the activities in themselves are diverse and encompassing. The EDI committee is very well represented across the organisation. We're very fortunate that we have very passionate people in SEI. They want to get involved, they want to make a difference, and that's very much seen in how the events are delivered and the attendance at any events. They're always very well attended and very well, I suppose, talked about afterwards, discussed, and really you can see the strong impact of those events when people are really kind of following up and saying that it was a great event and their behaviours have changed or they learned something and they're going to do something different. And they're going to apply that to their interactions with not just their colleagues, but their interactions with other key stakeholders and society at large. We're very fortunate that we have an ICD silver accreditation, and we're very much committed to continuing with that. And we really see this as a longer term commitment, and there's a very genuine recognition in the organisation and a real desire to do better and to be better for everybody. So thank you.
Thanks very much for that. That's great. And our fifth finalist today is Sulis, represented by Caroline Jones. Caroline, do you want to introduce yourself there?
Yeah, hi, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, brilliant, thank you. Hi, so I am Caroline and I am from Sulis. We have responsibility for building a world-class further education and training process in Ireland. It's available to everybody, it's in everybody's community. I myself am a white woman, and a bit like James, I am in the very last days of my 50s and celebrating my 60th birthday very soon. I have brownish greyish hair, green eyes, and today I'm wearing glasses. I also have a black and white top on me and have the Sulis logo as my background, which is white with yellow, orange and red colours in it. So that's me, yeah.
Thanks very much, Caroline. The judges were blown away by the broad range of D&I strategies implemented by Sulis. In particular, they commended the truly groundbreaking initiative you've implemented to create employment opportunities for 2 individuals in prison. They admired your openness to share the challenges involved in bringing this initiative to fruition and commented on the team's compassion and patience. Perhaps you could tell us a bit about that initiative.
Yep, thank you. I suppose I'm just listening to all my colleagues in the public and civil service, and it's fantastic to hear about the desire for collaboration. And I see Roisin there, and myself and Roisin would have had several conversations around apprenticeship, which Sulis also have responsibility for, and introducing that into the public service as well. And I suppose one of the key things for us is collaboration, and I've heard it again across all of the speakers this morning. So we, using the Irish human rights and equality legislation and the public sector duty that Jenny has spoken to, really honed in on a 10th ground, which is not in legislation but is recommended as part of the public sector duty and surrounds the socioeconomic status. And we decided to look at our organisation and see what the representation was like in that ground. And it's not great, and there is definitely a challenge for us in there. As part of our CSR, we have a workplace wellbeing choir within Sulis, which was about breathing and kind of equalising people across a very grade-focused organisation. We expanded that through, like, accidentally into Mountjoy Prison, and we were doing the first TEDx talk from a prison called From Custody Community, and the Sulis choir were asked to sing there. So we engaged with a choir that was in the prison and we sang together. And over the last 5 years, that choir has gone from strength to strength in terms of how education is informed in the prison and different access for people to different education facilities. And also, we started to look at, okay, well, then what's happening to prisoners when they're coming out of prison? So talking to the men in the choir, we realised that people can get jobs, but they're very menial jobs with very little progression routes for people. And we asked them what would be the best thing. So they were saying, okay, somewhere they don't mind starting at zero and working their way up, but it's actually being able to work your way up. It was the big issue. So using the human rights and the public sector equality and human rights duty, we decided that we were going to take positive action in this field. That involved a lot of things. One was developing training programs in the prison in terms of getting in CVs, getting ready for interviews, understanding the organisation that you're going to work with if you're successful, and then finally dealing with anxiety of coming out of prison into the workplace. So we spend a lot of time doing that in collaboration with Mountjoy Prison specifically, and also with the Irish Association for Social Inclusion Opportunities, IASIO, who work and have a project called The Gate, which helps people come out of prison. So we very successfully recruited 2 people through that. We put in place a very robust onboarding process, which added to our already decent enough onboarding process, but it just gave people 3 buddies instead of 1 buddy. And we did an awful lot more work with the people who came to work with us in terms of their learning needs and desires. And I think somebody talked about, I think it might have been Roisin from Oireachtas, in terms of looking at the role and what it is that people actually want to do and how you can help them to develop that. So anyway, we did that and it all seemed to be working very well. We were delighted the men were doing a great job, and then it all came tumbling down because we realised the issues and the complexities of coming out of prison are phenomenal. They are technically and theoretically so many different services. It's extraordinarily hard to actually access them when you've come out of prison, especially if you're working. There was agreement between the prisoners and ourselves that the best thing for them, according to them, was that they'd come straight to us after a week out of prison. So they had a little bit of breathing space, but they did not want to have too much time on their hands. However, homelessness was a massive issue, and both men that were working with us were homeless. As people became safer and safer in the organisation, issues around health became very apparent. And I can't even describe to you trying to work when you're homeless, what it's like trying to get yourself to work. So we had to reset, and we had to say, okay, all we did was great, but actually it's a way down the road. So we need to go back to the start and see how we can advocate for housing for people who are coming out of prison. So I don't really like saying this, but the reality is that we're all in the civil and public service a long time. We in the people who are supporting the guys that we're working with. So we used a lot of personal contacts to try and solve things and get things sorted out. And as doing it, knowing that it's not really the right thing to do in the longer term, but at this moment in time, it was the only thing we could do to try and put some sort of security in place for the people. So it's taken us 6 or 7 months, even with very senior people in organisations, trying to sort things out. And again, the big thing is around collaboration. So we are now linking in directly with the Dublin Regional Housing Executive, with the HSE, and with DSP, in terms of trying to work together, that if we're, as a public sector and civil service organisations, really trying to walk the walk in terms of offering opportunities, we have to do it in a way that's sustainable and cohesive across the public sector. So even if other organisations are not in a position to employ people coming from prison, they are in a position to make it easier for them to actually access homeless services. And yeah, so that's the men themselves are fantastic. They're doing a fantastic job. There's no issue around that, but it's everything else around them that is extraordinarily complex, and it takes a lot of time. As I said, they've 3 buddies. They've one person who literally is just a friend, so they've issues or they want to ask questions. One of our staff members is was trained as a psychotherapist and is there to help if issues come up around mental health. And then the other person has huge experience in terms of youth work, so I was able to deal with a lot of things that are happening around that as well. And it literally takes a village, and the people are getting huge support from their colleagues in the organisation, from their line managers, but having the additional pieces. So I suppose the kind of the lesson for us was, and I know on the judging, I said my father reared us to say, always be very careful of the pat on the back, because it's only 6 inches away from a kick in the ass. And we really experienced that, because we kind of felt we were doing a really good job. We put loads of things in place. And then the reality was, yeah, they were all good, but actually you needed to start at, okay, do you have somewhere to live? Do you have supports? If you have issues around your health, can you access a doctor? Have you got a medical card? People have no ID, and people have no bank accounts. So all of those things. So it's a process. We jumped and went with it, but in hindsight and on reflection, our next iteration, we probably start a lot earlier in the prison to try and ensure that people can have all those things in place. That might seem simple to the rest of us, but when you have no address, you can't get a bank account. You know what I mean? I'm trying to figure all those things out. So it's been massive learning for us. We actually had at one stage thought we'd take more than 2 people, but our experience is that was just perfect. And the 2 men are 100% involved with us in trying to sort those things out, so that we can actually have a very different go the next time, which we're hoping to do in the next couple of months. And actually, we've also decided that in the organisation that we're going to develop a project purely based on taking positive action, specifically in this ground at the moment. We're not bad around the rest of the grounds. We could improve, certainly, but this is the one that we're absolutely the weakest in. So we're looking at how we can do this better. Yeah, so that's really it from me.
Thanks very much, Caroline. That was really interesting. Appreciate it. And our last finalist today and the award winner is the Central Bank of Ireland, represented by Micheál O'Leary. Hi, Micheál. Do you want to introduce yourself now?
Hi, Mark. How are things? Thanks for that. Yes, so my name is Micheál O'Leary. I'm the Diversity and Inclusion and Culture Manager here at the Central Bank of Ireland. My descriptions: I have some white male, I have blonde hair, I have greeny/grey eyes depending on the light, and today I'm wearing a wine or maroon polo shirt. I'm sitting here on the 6th floor in the Central Bank on the quays here in Dublin city centre.
Thank you very much. And first thing to say is just congratulations on winning this very prestigious award. Well done, it's brilliant. You especially impressed the judges with the expanse of your commitment to D&I, displaying an impressive commitment across all pillars: gender, LGBTQI+, disability and social inclusion. In a tough category where every finalist was impressive, the Central Bank's collaboration with community to engage them at every level was a standout. Can you tell us a bit about this aspect of your nomination, please?
Yeah, absolutely, Mark. And I should start by saying we were privileged and humbled and honoured and all the good stuff that comes with winning an award. And then when you hear the descriptions of the work going on in other organisations, it's a real I think that the pat on the back and the kick in the ass, I think it's a positive kick in the ass this morning maybe that we're getting, because it's inspiring to listen to what everyone else is doing. And I should start as well by saying, if anyone does want to get in touch, one of the big things that I've learned in my time in working in diversity and inclusion is that talking to people and learning from what others are doing is really, really insightful and important. So I'm happy to chat to anyone, and vice versa. I'll be getting in touch with a few of you directly as well with some questions that I have. So like our submission this I suppose in October last year was focused on our 3 main areas of activity for 2023, which were gender, disability and social inclusion. So I think just to answer your question, Mark, we focus on social inclusion this morning. I think it's one of the things that we take real pride in as an organisation, that we're here in the northeast inner city of Dublin. We really do want to be a trusted neighbour, and we want to build deep relationships with the community in the northeast inner city. And I think we have a unique positioning in that sense to support organisations and individuals as best we can. And what the headline really there is for us is it's about prioritising employment and employability. So to do that, what we've done is we've taken a partnership approach. In previous years, we would have had kind of a broader spectrum of engagement with the community, but we felt we weren't getting maybe the impact at the level of depth that we wanted. So we went to the partnership approach in 2022. I think in 2023 we saw the real payback for that. So we have 5 community partners who are East Wall Youth, Swan Regional Youth Service, Belvedere Youth Club, the Five Lambs Arts Festival and North Wall CDP. So they're organisations that are doing incredible work in the northeast inner city, and our role, I suppose, in supporting them was really about connecting those organisations with employers and education providers, connecting young people to the bank in general to work and learn in our facilities. So we have a number of internship and scholarship programs available. But I think that's kind of one aspect of it. But equally, we wanted to use whatever skills and expertise we had ourselves to support the organisations in their own kind of activities and running the day-to-day activity they do. So one of the things we did is we set up a Leaders of Docklands community network, and we've been running a leadership program. We run coaching and mentoring, and we provide kind of specific supports around governance or skill sets that organizations might be struggling with. So whether that's a bit of help in pulling finances together, fundraising, governance support, or whether it's HR advice they're looking for, we've kind of said what can we give to these organizations, and quite often we have the skill sets internally that are really useful to these places that maybe don't have the resources or the time to go after it. And I think in volunteering then is kind of the other wing where our staff get involved in a lot of detail and a lot of depth. So I think we had the guts of 1,000 hours of volunteering within the northeast inner city just with those 5 community partners last year, which is good from our perspective. I suppose what enables it is we have really, really strong senior sponsorship. So this is on the agenda of our senior leaders. It matters to them. They ask us questions about it consistently, and they turn up and they show up themselves at events and in terms of that visible support. But they're also holding us accountable in the background. And I think what really makes it work then is that we have a great kind of core employee-led volunteer world within social inclusion as well. So we have a social responsibility working group that is partnering with these 5 community partners on a regular basis, and it couldn't be done. So we're a small D&I team and a social responsibility team, but it couldn't be done without the volunteering of people of their own time. Now we support it and enable it to happen, but effectively you're asking people to go above and beyond to live the values of the bank in the community itself. So it's something we're really, really proud of, and it's something we've gotten great feedback from the community as well. And we're, as I said, just trying to make that idea of employment being a gateway to social change and inclusion generally. And it's up to us, I think, in our role as a public sector organisation in the community to remove those barriers, and it's not just about removing barriers, but it's also making it feel possible and doable for the community organisations and the individuals that those organisations are serving and the communities they're serving as well. So that was kind of our social inclusion aspect. It's the one that I suppose has the biggest ripple effect as we see it across the outside of the bank. So we're always conscious that anything we do in diversity and inclusion or social responsibility has that ripple effect. So you might do something for the sake of an event or an activity on the day, but it's actually what that brings to the next layer or the next layer outside of that is something we're really proud of, and we keep that at the forefront of our thinking when we're deciding what we're doing, whether that's, as I said, in D&I or social responsibility or sustainability more generally as well. So it's as I said at the start, it's really humbling, and it's great to see such brilliant activity in the public sector. I think it's something we can all be really proud of, and there's great purpose in it, and to see the impact then on the ground in, as I said, in these partner organizations. It's I keep saying proud, but it makes you proud, and it really does give you that purpose and that drive to keep pushing at it, because it's badly needed for corporate organizations like ourselves and public sector organizations to get involved in these places. So we take it seriously, and we're delighted to continue to do it this year and onwards as well. Thanks very much, Michal. That's great. And yeah, thanks to all the finalists. I think that was a really interesting discussion.
Michal, I heard you mention talking to others and learning from others, and Caroline mentioned taking a village to get things done. So I think that kind of seemed to thread through everyone's stories. That kind of engagement and learning from others and using your networks seems vital in some of this work. So it's great to have an event like this where we get to hear all these fantastic stories. So I might just hand you back over to James now. And again, thanks very much from me.
Thanks, Mark, and thanks everyone. I suppose just to comment myself, I think it's really striking to see the huge volume of individuals embracing the D&I message, and of course the knock-on effects it's having for wider society. And I think it's important to say as well, big thank you to everyone on this panel today for being so open and free with their sharing and that offer to connect. And I think that's really important, because I know I jotted a few keywords down around partnerships, cohesion, holistic perspective, the external impact, of course, the business, moral and legal case for D&I, and of course, the intersection across all of our identities and the pillars that pull us all together in that commonality. So I think it was a really powerful session. I just want to say a big thank you to everyone as well. So before I finish out the series, I just want to say a few thank yous. A big thank you to our host, Mark, Publicjobs.ie. Of course, to the award finalists, thank you again. And to our winner, also to our ISL interpreters, Orla and Vanessa, and for keeping up with our pace also. To the tech team behind the scenes, thank you all, to Andrew and Kira in particular. And also, if we can help their Centre for Diversity with any of your D&I journey, please feel free to contact us through our website, which is www.ircentreforddiversity.ie. And also, you'll find all the previous recordings for the series of the webinars, and the recording will be available shortly. So a big thank you to everyone, and thanks for closing out our session.